So for step 38, installing the battery pack, well, you can see that they're actually coming at this from this end so that you can stick the battery pack in that way. And then of course the cable is going to attach to our speed controller from that direction, which makes sense because you don't want these wires crossing over your steering arm. So it needs to be at this side. Now, if you remember earlier, I put on the on-off switch here. But I think ultimately, if you were building this kit as the rear motor rear drive, I think on the Hobbywing, I would take this and put it down here on the frame onto the side, because there is enough cable length for that so that it's sitting down here and out of the way of the operation of this going up and down. And I say that because if we do it the way that I'm going to end up doing it, I'm going to go from this side, open it up, and now I've got to slide this cable through and to the other end. But of course, the cable itself is going to bunch up a bit, as you can sort of see. Maybe I'll do it from this angle so you can see what I'm talking about. You can see down here that it's bunching up, which means it's a little harder to get at. It's really not that big a deal. I still slide it through, and you can make sure that those cables are going underneath the hole so that it's sitting like that. And, you know, then ultimately, if I turn it around again, I can put this pin through there and everything's fine and dandy. So the battery is in place, and again, it's going to be a matter of connecting it. Now, I'm not going to do that right now, but ultimately, you know, your cable wires are this way versus going over the top of your steering arm, which you don't want. So you want to connect it from this side. But again, I may suggest that if you are building this in the configuration that it is, and you have the Hobbywing speed controller, take it and put it down here on the frame, just right, let's see, right there, and that way it's out of the way of this altogether. But it's not too bad, and I'm not too worried about it, because again, I'm going to do it the other way. Now you can see the second part of the step was the aerial. I don't think I'm going to be using that, so I'm not going to put the extra hole in the body. So technically that means that step 38 is done. So we're going to move on to step 39, which is if, and I say if, attaching a transponder. And I'm not going to do this, so I'm not going to do this step at all. So we can move on to step 40, which is making the holes. So now we're going to start working on the body, and I'll show you what I found is the best way to make the holes and gives you more control as opposed to drilling them out. So for step 40, making the holes, well, you can see that we've got quite a few to make. We've got the 2 at the front for the front body mount posts, 2 at the rear for the rear body mount posts, 2 at the very back for the wing. There's 2 here for the side mirrors, and then here is the one that's for the antenna, but I will not be putting that one in because I won't be using it. I don't want an antenna pipe coming out the top. For the realism, I'm not going to need it. And of course, with these 2.4 gig units these days, the antennas are so small they don't really fit, and it's not really needed. So we're going to leave that out. So I'm going to set this up and I'll show you how to put these holes in. So here is our body. So I'm going to show you the best way that I've found to make these holes. So I'll just adjust this here, and I'll move that out of the way for a second, because let's take a look at the first one here. The first one's on the front. They're 6.5 millimeters, and therefore the body mount posts. Now this, to me, is the best and easiest way to make those holes. This is a body reamer, and I did a full tutorial on how to use one right here. So I'm going to show you how this works quickly, and then I'm going to make all the holes and we'll move on. But you can see there all of the numbers. Well, we want 6.5, so we want the spot between a 6 and a 7. So because the holes are already you could say pre-dented, indented, so we've got those two. I know that it's going to be 6.5. I'm going to put basically the very tip of this into a hole. I'm going to just sort of spin it a bit until the hole is a little bigger. And that means I've put the hole in. So now I'm going to put a little bit more pressure here. You heard the pop, but I'm just going to spin. And I'm just sort of going back and forth, making sure that that's actually correct. So I know it's going to be wider than that, so I can push it in a little further. I can go a lot farther, actually. It's kind of like having a mini hand drill, so you kind of know, and you can watch where those numbers are. So I can go a little further. And notice on the reamer that is roughly six and a bit. Now I'm not going to go all the way, because if it's loose on the body mount, I'm not going to need to go any farther. But you can see that that's roughly at that 6.5 mark. I'm halfway through the 6. So there's our hole, and you get a nice round hole. And of course I can clean it up a bit from the other side. I can go in, not to drill it more, but to get the remaining kind of remnants of the plastic off. Notice it's nice and clear and clean. And so the same thing on this side. And of course you can see some of the peeling of the protective layer of the plastic. That's what you're seeing there. Otherwise this would be a nice smooth hole. So that is how you would use the body reamer. So I'm going to do this for all the other holes, and then we'll take a last look. So there we go. There are all the holes. There's our front. We've got our side one for the side mirror. We've got the 2 in the back for the wing, and then the 2 at the top for the rear body mount posts, and then of course again right here for the other side mirror. So the body holes are in and ready to go. So that means that step 40 is complete. So now we're going to move on to step 41 and cut out the body.